You bought a new sofa. Just the sofa. That was the plan. But now the rug looks wrong next to it. And once you replace the rug, the curtains look outdated. And once you fix the curtains, the coffee table that's been in the room for 6 years suddenly feels like it doesn't belong there anymore. 2 months later, you've spent 4 times what the sofa cost, and the room still doesn't feel finished. That's not spending. That's a psychological mechanism with a name. And it was described almost 3 centuries ago by a philosopher who couldn't afford any of it. Denis Diderot, the French Enlightenment philosopher, received an elegant new dressing gown as a gift. Gradually, over the months that followed, he replaced almost every object in his study to match it. The chair, the writing desk, the tapestry on the wall, the clock on the mantelpiece. In an essay written in 1769, he described the experience with striking self-awareness. The new robe had made everything around him feel inadequate. Within a year, he was in debt. He called the essay, with characteristic irony, "Regret for My Old Dressing Gown." The psychologist Grant McCracken formalized this pattern 2 centuries later, naming it the Diderot effect. The tendency of one purchase to generate a cascade of subsequent purchases, each aimed at restoring a sense of aesthetic and psychological unity. James is 34, a policy analyst with a government agency, earns a reliable mid-career salary, and for the last 18 months has been confused about where his money actually goes. He doesn't splurge on obvious luxuries. He doesn't take expensive vacations. But over the past year, he bought a new laptop, which made his desk setup look wrong, which led to a monitor, a standing desk, a chair upgrade, cable management accessories, and eventually a small plant to make the whole thing feel less clinical. Each individual item was reasonable, justifiable even, but the cascade added up to just over $2,000 he had no conscious intention of spending when he ordered the laptop. James didn't decide to spend $2,000. His brain decided to buy unity, the visual and psychological coherence that the first purchase disrupted had to be restored. And the only way the brain knows to restore it is with more purchases. This is why the mechanism is particularly invisible. No single transaction looks like the problem. Each one has its own logic. The pattern only becomes legible when you look at 6 months of spending as a single coherent data set. And by then, each item has already been rationalized into necessity. What makes the Diderot effect especially effective against people with stable incomes is that there's no obvious excess to flag. The purchases are practical, appropriate even. The sofa wasn't a splurge. It was an upgrade that made sense. The monitor wasn't indulgent. It was a productivity investment. Every item in the cascade was justified individually. The error isn't in any single item. It's in the architecture of desire that connects them all. The behavioral economics term for what happens next is post hoc rationalization. Your brain generates the reason after the decision, not before. It's not lying to itself. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do, protecting the coherence of the story you've constructed about yourself, your space, and your life. Every new object is an identity claim, and disrupting that claim, once made, requires either updating everything around it or tolerating an internal dissonance that doesn't go away. Before we go further, what we're talking about connects directly to a pattern the Free Mind Kit maps with precision. The ebook walks through the 5 mechanisms that trap men with stable income. You just saw one in action: consumption as coherence seeking, the cost of stability. Calculator takes your actual numbers and shows you what these patterns are costing in real wealth and real time. And the 3 audio tracks work where knowledge alone doesn't reach: identity, value, action in the first minutes of your morning, before the world starts generating its own gaps for you to fill. $9. Link in the description. Back to this. The practical shift isn't frugality. it's a different question. Before any purchase above a threshold James set for himself, he uses $50. He asks one thing: am I buying the object, or am I buying what the object is supposed to fix? Most of the time, the honest answer reveals that the object was never the point. The point was a feeling of completeness that the previous purchase had temporarily disrupted, and that this new purchase was only going to temporarily restore before disrupting something else. James didn't stop upgrading things. He didn't become minimalist. He just stopped confusing coherent seeking with actual decision-making. Once he could name the mechanism, he could see it operating in real time. And seeing it in real time meant he could choose whether to act on it or let it pass. The money he stopped losing to the Diderot cascade isn't in a savings account earning interest. It's being directed towards something with a longer return horizon. Not because that's the virtuous choice, because it's the one that actually closes the loop instead of perpetually extending it. Your brain will always find the next thing that looks wrong. That's its function, not to satisfy, but to identify gaps. The question isn't whether the gap exists, it's whether you want to keep filling it with things, or do something different with what the gap is trying to tell you. Type pattern in the comments if this conversation named something you've been living. And if you want to go deeper, the Free Mind Kit is in the description. Ebook, calculator, and audio tracks. Subscribe too. The gap doesn't close with the next purchase. It closes when you stop letting the gap decide.